In the ancient town of Kapilavastu, where the roads were lined with blooming lotuses and the air whispered of enlightenment, lived two childhood friends, Jeevan and Rohan. Their friendship was deep, seemingly unbreakable, bound by years of shared secrets and mutual respect. Jeevan, a skilled potter, and Rohan, a merchant, supported each other's endeavors, their lives as intertwined as the vines in the town's lush gardens. However, as the years passed, Rohan's heart grew troubled by envy. Jeevan's pottery was renowned for its beauty and craftsmanship, fetching high prices and earning him accolades from far and wide. Rohan, though successful, felt overshadowed and, in a moment of weakness, allowed his envy to darken his heart. One spring, during the festival of Baisakhi, a wealthy trader from a distant land arrived in Kapilavastu. Impressed by Jeevan's pottery, he offered him a lucrative contract that would secure his fortune. Fueled by jealousy, Rohan plotted to sabotage Jeevan. He secretly mixed a weak, crumbling clay into Jeevan's materials, knowing it would ruin the pottery and destroy his friend's burgeoning opportunity. As the fateful day arrived and Jeevan presented his pottery to the trader, the pots crumbled to dust before the crowd. Humiliated and bewildered, Jeevan was left with nothing but the ruins of his work and reputation. The contract was lost, and so, he believed, was his future. Several months after the disastrous exhibition, Jeevan, still grappling with the mystery of his pottery's failure, discovered the truth of Rohan's betrayal. While gathering fresh clay from the local supplier, the supplier casually mentioned how Rohan had purchased an unusual amount of low-quality clay just before Jeevan's big order. Piecing the timeline together, Jeevan confronted the reality of his friend's envy-driven sabotage. After the heartbreaking discovery of Rohan's betrayal, Jeevan was initially consumed by rage, imagining how he could retaliate against his friend's treachery. The feelings of anger festered in his mind, until one evening, during a solitary walk through the quiet outskirts of Kapilavastu, he stumbled upon a small temple. Drawn inside by the soothing cadence of a monk's voice, Jeevan listened as Monk Suddhin preached about the poisoning of holding onto anger and the liberating power of forgiveness. Hatred does not seize by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule, Suddhin declared. These words struck a chord within Jeevan, who realized that his obsession with revenge was only prolonging his pain and hindering his healing. The following morning, Jeevan returned to the temple to seek guidance from Suddhin. He found a tranquil spot beneath the shade of a Bodhi tree and waited patiently for the monk to arrive. When Suddhin approached, he brought with him a presence as calming as the still pond beside them. "Jeevan," Suddhin began, his voice gentle yet carrying the weight of profound wisdom. "Life is impermanent and filled with suffering, but it is also our greatest teacher. Your pain is like the mud that surrounds the roots of a lotus. Without it, the lotus would never rise and bloom above the water." "But my friend betrayed me," Jeevan replied, his voice choked with emotion. The hurt was palpable, a raw wound in his heart. "And yet, it is not the actions of others that bind us, but how we respond to them," Suddhin explained patiently. "Karma is the law of moral causation, the belief that every action generates a force of energy that returns to us in kind. Your friend's actions will bear their own fruit, and he will face the consequences of his choices in time." "But what should I do? How do I move past this betrayal?" Jeevan asked, seeking a path out of his turmoil. "Act with compassion and detachment," advised Suddhin. "Do not let anger and desire for retribution cloud your heart. Instead, focus on rebuilding and crafting your life like your finest pot, with patience and dedication. Let go of hatred, for it will only weigh you down. Remember, like the lotus, you must rise above the mud of betrayal." The conversation with Suddhin was a turning point for Jeevan. The wisdom of Buddha's teachings resonated deeply, stirring something profound within him. However, as he left the serene surroundings of the temple, the reality of his situation weighed heavily on him. His workshop seemed like a monument to his shattered trust, each unfinished pot a reminder of his friend's deceit. Anger and thoughts of revenge repeatedly crept into his mind, battling against the peaceful teachings he had embraced. Moving past the betrayal was far from easy. Some days, Jeevan would stand in his workshop, his hands clenched, as waves of anger washed over him. The temptation to confront Rohan, to make him pay for his betrayal, was overwhelming. During these moments, Jeevan found himself returning to the principles Suddhin had shared. He began to practice mindful breathing, each inhale and exhale a deliberate effort to cleanse his spirit of the dark tendrils of revenge. Gradually, as he centered his practice not just around his craft, but around mindfulness and compassion, Jeevan felt the weight of his anger lifting. He dedicated moments each day to meditation, focusing on the sensations of his breath and the feel of the clay between his fingers, grounding himself in the present. These practices did not erase the pain overnight, but they opened a pathway through it, a way to coexist with the hurt without letting it define him. As Jeevan's heart healed, his craft flourished. His pots were more exquisite than ever, each one a testament to his journey from the depths of betrayal to the heights of artistic and personal achievement. Meanwhile, Rohan's life, seemingly prosperous on the outside, was a facade masking a personal hell shaped by guilt and relentless envy. Despite his initial triumph, Rohan found no joy in his success, haunted by the knowledge of his deceit. His envy of Jeevan continued to gnaw at him, growing stronger with each of Jeevan's new successes. This internal torment was a living hell, one that no one around him could see or alleviate. The turning point for Jeevan came during a particularly low moment, when he was on the verge of selling his shop. A young apprentice from the temple, aware of Jeevan's situation, brought him a small lotus, reminding him of a lesson from Suddhin. The lotus grows out of the mud but blooms untainted above it. You too can rise above. This gesture reminded Jeevan of the teachings he had embraced and solidified his resolve to persevere, focusing on his craft and moral principles rather than succumbing to bitterness. As Jeevan rebuilt his life, grounding himself in Buddhist teachings and his community, Rohan watched from a distance. Overwhelmed by his own inner turmoil, Rohan eventually reached out to Jeevan, confessing his actions in a moment of desperation. It was then that Jeevan, strengthened by his journey through forgiveness and understanding, extended a hand of support to Rohan, helping him to seek redemption and peace. In doing so, Jeevan not only healed the wounds of the past, but also set both of them on a path towards healing and forgiveness, proving that even in the deepest betrayal, the seeds of compassion can transform lives. This story of Jeevan and Rohan teaches us that the response to betrayal is a powerful choice that defines our continued path in life, either anchoring us to suffering or setting us free towards greater fulfillment and peace. In the end, Jeevan's decision to embrace Buddha's teachings of compassion and detachment not only restored his life, but elevated it. He had risen above the betrayal, not through revenge, but through forgiveness and relentless self-betterment. His story, a poignant reminder of the power of response over circumstance, became a beacon of hope for others facing their own tribulations. If Jeevan's journey from the pain of betrayal to the peace of forgiveness resonates with you, please share this story. Like and subscribe for more insights into how ancient wisdom can solve modern problems. And in the comments below, share how you have dealt with personal betrayals and what lessons you have learned in the process. Let us learn from each other and grow stronger together. Until next time, may you find the strength to rise above your own challenges, as beautifully as a lotus rises above the mud.